grab myself a white pencil here, and we're going to take that divider, and we're going to come off here and come up about 7/8 of an inch. The reason I've switched to a white pencil is so that you can see what I'm doing. Come in here about 7/8. And what I'm trying to do now is get my lobes relatively centered on my 7/8 inch mark. So if I need to make some minor corrections here and there, I'm going to do it. And now what we want to do is come down here and we want to mark, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines. This one's going to have to move over a little bit to give me some room, but at least this is a rough road map of where I'm headed. And I'm just going to sketch these in. Up and around. Don't be too concerned at first if you don't get them perfect. You can go back and pencil. You can go back and correct it. So we're going to take this one up and around. Try and make it look about as balanced as I can with that one on the other side. Match those up. My pencil's wearing down here. Sketch that in. Done. Easy stuff to do. And now what I'm going to do, take my V parting tool, once I find it. There we go. And I'm going to work my way up and around there. The one thing I can see right here is this lobe is nowhere near as big as that one, so this line needs to come back in here like this. Let's take a chisel and pull some of that off. Like my eraser. All right, let's even that up a little bit. It's a little better. This has got to come back in this way some. They're looking a lot better, a lot more balanced. And now I'm just going to start with my center lobe. Come right up there, up this line, and I'm going to work right off the back of that bevel on that chisel. What I want to do is start to cut, and then I want that bevel to ride in my cut. Helps me get a straighter curved line, if that makes sense. Fewer bumps. And the great thing about carving is I can turn around, and if I see that I'm a little shifted to one side, I can slowly work my way back over and make things balanced again. So we've got that. Then I usually like to go, after my center line, I like to go to those 2 outside lobes, because then I can just divide the area up in between nice and evenly for the other 2 lines. All right, well, they're all sort of fired in there. We've got nice, relatively even depths all the way around, getting a little deeper as it goes to the outside than it is here at the bottom of the shell. The next thing we want to do is I'm either going to use my bent back gouges and start to round off my convex lobes, or I'm just going to take my bench chisel and do the same thing. So really what I'm going to do is knock off a corner coming up there. And again, we're paying very close attention to grain direction. On this lobe, I'm going to carve on this side of the line. I'm going to carve from here, from the bottom of the shell to the top of the shell. On that same lobe, on the opposite side, I have to carve back the other direction. So this is why this is such a great practice exercise for somebody who's just starting out carving, because it gives you lots of opportunities to see about shifts in grain direction. I'm just going to go to my bigger back bent gouge and just roll right up. A nice straight push cut all the way from end to end. And then I'm going to come back and do a pull cut. So I'm going to start right in that corner. See if I can let you see it on a close-up. Try and keep my hands out of the way. Then we're going to round this one over. Back in there with my straight chisel. Flow that out a little better. Come back the opposite direction. And just make that nice and round. Back in here. The reason I'm doing the convex lobes first, if I were to dish the concave lobes out, then this section becomes very, very thin. And that way, if I hit it with a bench chisel or my carving chisel, I'm going to knock that very tip of the corner off. If I start here on my convex lobes, then all I have to do is go back and make my hollows hollow. Got to come back up just a little. All right. I can also grab my, I'm not quite deep enough on that one, so I'm going to go back in with my V-parting tool, follow that line, and I'm just going to make it deeper. Again, much like when we were carving here and we removed some of the waste, now I can get a deeper cut with a lot less resistance. And that's really what it's all about, is creating less resistance for yourself, because that way you have much more control over the tools and where it cuts. And if I, on this one, because I'm going dead against the grain there, I'm going 90 degrees to it. If I take my bent back gouge there and just twist it a little bit, now I'm getting a shearing cut, so I don't have to worry as much about grain direction. Same thing with my bench chisel. If I turn it at a slight angle, I now get a shear cut and it comes off nice and smooth. Well, that's looking pretty good. I've got all those convex lobes done. Next step, concave. I usually like to start with clearing out my workspace first, but I'm going to go with that 10 millimeter number 8 there, and I'm going to start working the upper halves of my lobes here, the concave ones, and I'm going to go right up that center, and I'm going to do that shear cut thing. I'm going to rotate my chisel around there so I get a nice clean cut, and I'm going to stay, again, if we look at this, I have to carve in that direction, starting here and going there on this side of the lobe. On the other side, I have to come from the top to the bottom of the shell. And that's going to reverse on each side of this thing. So start by rolling up that, my right-hand side, your left-hand side, and I'm going to try and make that little sharp flat right there nice and even as I go up. And I want it to be, between a 1/16 and an 1/8 of an inch wide. And I think I'm going to switch, come back to a shorter one. I'm going to come down. And then just take that edge right off of there. Oh, still going uphill there. Don't force it. Actually, just let the cuts happen. If you start to dig in, back off, come the other direction. Sometimes the grain direction shifts, especially in mahogany. Tiger maple, things like that, you'll get lots of grain direction shifts. So you've got to go at things slowly or you're going to really just totally wreck this thing. Shallower one yet. Come off that side. Come right back in here. We're not trying to go to a half round here. We're trying to make just a nice even arc from point to point. Nice and smooth. And where it comes out down here, I can go back to that really little 6 millimeter number 8, and we're just going to give it a hint of a hollow and then flow it out till it hits the bigger gouge mark. Three more and I'm ready to roll. All right, we've got all those lobes fired in there. I could drop that one down just a little more, so I think I will real quick. Just gonna come uphill just a little bit and roll that thing up and around. There we go, that's much better. Come back in here. All right, so we're up to speed there. Next thing I need to do is I want to accentuate those scallops just a little bit. So I'm going to take my V parting tool, and everywhere where I come out here, I'm just going to make a chop cut with the V sort of at a tangent to this arc. So I'm coming across and I'm accentuating that little cut in right there where that ridge comes in and meets the convex lobe. And I didn't do it at these outside points where the scallops are because we need it to flow out of there. So the next step is I'm going to take my number 7 gouge here. Actually, I'm going to go straight to it. It's a little too tight. So what I'm going to do is just go to a good sharp bench chisel and flow those convex lobes right down to the bottom of that V. And what that's going to do is it's just going to make this whole convex concave thing sort of pop. Touch that up. And I think we're just about there. And go back in with that wide 7. And what we're going to do is just take a little bit off of those convex lobes, the concave lobes, the exact same way, just to accentuate that in and out feeling there. So here we go. Yep. Just to make them pop. Excellent. Last step. Scallop shells usually have a whole lot of sort of little fins in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll do 8. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And those are just ballpark areas. So I'm just gonna take my V parting tool, 1, 2, and I'm gonna try and keep them relatively concentric. It's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Not too bad. We've got one convex scallop shell all carved up, ready for a little bit of sanding to put on your favorite piece of furniture, or you can just mount it on a plaque and frame it. It will be one of your first carvings. Again, this is a really great exercise if you're just getting started with carving, because it gives you lots of practice with learning how to read the grain direction. And that's the most important thing with carving. So get in your shop, give it a try.